Clíodhna, where are you joining us from today?
So I am the resident director from Maynooth in Ireland. That's kind of, we are on the east coast of Ireland. So we're about 50 miles west of Dublin. So we're very close to the capital. So a nice little campus to be in.
Awesome. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, your role as a resident director for Maynooth, how long you've been with Aifs, and let's go with what's your favorite part about your role as an RD.
So yeah, I've been a resident director for just 3 years actually. I did January 2018. Yeah, I've been here a little while. And I love being an RD, so it's a job that I never thought I would do. We have two kind of programs in Maynooth. We have our semester-long ones and then our summer program. So I'm in charge of those ones when they come here to study in Maynooth. So I look after the students and get them all settled in and make sure everything runs okay. So here for support, and with whether it be kind of academic, so anything from timetabling, finding a classroom, immigration, all that sort of stuff. And then just kind of the more general support of, I've had students ring me that have been lost in Dublin and I try and figure out how to get them home or just kind of exploring Ireland and how to do that, or want to go explore Europe and stuff. So a bit of both, a bit of minding and then kind of academic stuff as well too. I studied in Maynooth myself for my undergrad. I studied accounting and history. I am currently now still studying. I went back and did my postgrad diploma in Maynooth as well.
Your favorite thing about your role?
It's definitely the students. I've met so many new people from all different types of people, and it's really opened my eyes to kind of all the different nationalities, everyone that is from the States and all that. So it's nice to kind of meet someone that's not Irish, you know, if that makes sense.
And you can probably tell right away when they don't have as cool of an accent as you have, that they are not in fact Irish. So obviously you're a Maynooth, not just the resident director, but local. You've been a Maynooth student yourself. What do you think it is that draws students to the programs in Maynooth, or just geographically speaking, Maynooth in general? What do you think is special about that particular area?
I'd say the start with the university is that it's such a kind of small and community university. There's only 13,000, and to some people that's a lot, and to others it's not at all, but it's quite a small university for Ireland. Maynooth is Ireland's only university town, so it's every other university we have in Ireland is either in a big city or something, so it gives a sense of community. So like students live with the normal Maynooth residents all the time and get on really well with them. That's, I think, what one of the draws is that it's such a small little place, so you don't feel like just, oh, I'm a number in a kind of sea of people in the universities. And then Maynooth itself, yeah, again, it's a small little town, but our location is really, really good, so you're so close to Dublin. So there's bus routes, train routes that get you into the city centre in about half an hour or so. So students take a huge advantage that you can easily pop into Dublin City and spend the day, I don't know, wandering around a museum or just exploring Dublin. That's kind of a good thing. We're also very close to Dublin Airport, which is really handy for students to jump on a plane and go visit Paris for a weekend or something. So.
Yeah, centrally located. And again, I think our students, when they fly in for the program, I believe they fly in through Dublin.
Yep.
Again, should you book your flights with Aifs, we transport you to Maynooth from Dublin. Traveling throughout the city of Maynooth, is there public transportation? Is it a pretty pedestrian city, would you say? How does a commute? You guys have campus housing for your program, so it's not so much a commute from one building to the next, but just to kind of navigate your way around Maynooth, what does that look like for students?
It's very small. You can walk from, like, North Campus of Maynooth is one side of the town, and you can walk to the other side where there's a big, huge Tesco's, which is a supermarket. It's like Walmart. Do that in about 15 minutes. That's one side of the town to the other. So it's very, very small and short. There's one big main road and then 2 or 3 kind of side little roads off it. So it's very small and compact. It has kind of everything that you would need in the town. It has supermarkets and has places to buy clothes if you need something urgently. But then we're so close to Dublin. We have 2 bus routes and train service that goes into town, I think every half an hour or each of them, so it runs all day.
If public transportation is something that overwhelms you, or big city bustle overwhelms you, Maynooth is a really good toe in the water, and it seems like students can kind of circumnavigate pretty quickly, like they catch on to the bus routes. And
we have an orientation that gets them, I deliberately take them on a bus. This is how you get on the bus. With the program, they get a travel discount card, a leap card it's called, so they get a certain amount of credit on that to use for the whole semester. So it shows this is how you get on the bus, how you get off the bus, get on the train, this is it. So they know within maybe the first 48 hours how to navigate public transport. And if they can do it, especially in Dublin.
Yeah, it seems something very elementary and yet something that's definitely going to be of use throughout their program. I know you mentioned the housing. So if you can tell us a little bit about what housing looks like for students, what are some of the amenities, perks, meal plans, aggregate of that housing, just kind of walk us through all of that.
They're on campus, which is really, really handy. They're within a 5-minute walk from campus, not even for some of the classrooms. So it's very easy to roll out of bed and into your classroom. So students live in shared apartments. So they're between 5 to 6 bedrooms. Students have their own bathroom too, which I seem to be a plus from American standards. And they can never get over when they come in, they see the apartments, and they're like, I have my own bathroom? And you're kind of going, yeah. So their own bathroom, own bedroom, kind of with the normal desk, bed, wardrobe. They're quite actually. And then they have a shared kitchen and living room with the rest of their apartment. So students can live with other international students, so it could be other American students, or any of the international students that Maynooth has, so an Indian student, a Chinese student, Korean, anything. Or there are some Irish students too that they live with as well. So they do get to mix with each other. The meal plans, we have one that kind of runs with the program, is get them a kind of a credit card that they can use. They can either use on campus, so there's a few restaurants that are on campus, but they can also be used in supermarkets. So if a student is capable enough and wants to cook for themselves and know they won't burn down their whole kitchen, they can do it. Like there's a supermarket a 10-minute walk from the apartment. So it's really up to the student themselves what they want. It gives them the opportunity to kind of grow. And I would always encourage students to try out cooking themselves, and they may discover that they love it.
As an RD, you probably have like your favorite Irish food or one that you recommend for students to try or potentially try to cook for themselves. What does that dish look like for you guys?
I would always suggest trying to make Irish soda bread. One thing I always say to students is try it and see. It's a recipe that you can't really go wrong. But yeah, there's always kind of Irish stew, which you hear of, or fish and chips. Especially if we go over to the west of Ireland, I always kind of do fish and chips or seafood chowder. Any of those to try when they're out and about, and if they're brave, do it themselves.
Can you tell us more about academic programs? I know we have a summer's room, we have a fall and spring full-term semesters as well. So can you tell us a little bit about the academics for each of them? If there's any classes that students are really drawn to, that you have a high population or interest in a particular class, a little bit about academics.
Summer school, the students take 2 classes while they're here in Maynooth for the month. So they have a choice of, I think, about 12 subjects that they can take. I know a few of them they're kind of business related. We've anthropology, we've Irish cultural heritage, which is normally quite popular with students, or we've creative writing, media students. So it's kind of a broad range offered to them. And students can take whatever they want as long as their home university is okay with it. So they take those 2 classes kind of alternating days for the 4 weeks. The semester one, they have a lot more choice because it's obviously a longer program. There's 33 departments that students can choose from the Maynooth curriculum. A wide range of choices, some from the humanities faculty, our social sciences, which anthropology, sociology, all those ology ones. And then we have science, which are open to study abroad students. So we've normal biology, chemistry, experimental physics, computer science, we've electronical engineering. It's an opportunity for science students that they can actually study abroad, and there are loads of modules that would be available for them to study here in Maynooth. You don't have to be doing a humanities degree to come and study abroad. It's a nice opportunity for them.
One of the rumors or misconceptions that we try to dispel is that STEM students can't study abroad, or they have to dedicate their entire semester to just humanities or just electives or core curriculum courses. So definitely not the case, especially with Maynooth. Nice lineup of different STEM courses available. So if you're in the sciences, might be a good option. Is there ever a class, or has there ever been a class where students not struggle, but they're like, wow, that was challenging, but it's definitely like I don't want to say life-changing course, but just something that really makes them appreciate their study abroad in a different way?
I think we have a kind of a certificate program that they run in Maynooth. The Irish cultural heritage is one of them. We've got 3. That one is probably the most popular one that students do, all about Ireland and kind of medieval stuff. And there's actually one module in it that is you can have Irish for beginners, so you can actually learn the Irish language, which I always encourage them to try it. It is a lot harder, I think, than they think it would be, but a good few of them stick through it and they do quite well in the thing. It's always a kind of a weird thing to put on like a resume or something, that basic Irish. It makes you stand out, but it's a weird class to take for an American, but it's a lot of the students who would take it have really enjoyed it and really liked it. So it's always one that sticks out to me, kind of going, you wouldn't normally study that when you're abroad. So,
and I think if you have that on a resume, yes, it stands out, but it also kind of shows that, in maybe a summer or a semester, whatever the longevity of that course is, that you were able to take on a course like that and actually do well in it is pretty unique stuff. Is there a term in Ireland, whether it's English or Gaelic or what have you, that you guys as locals would say to each other, or something that you commonly use?
I always say to students the first day they arrive is, I will say "that's grand" to them all the time, and it means a multitude of things. It could be fine, that's okay, or if you're kind of you're kind of going grand, whatever. So that's one thing that I know I say a lot to the students, is kind of going, you'll figure, or I'll text to them kind of going, oh, I'm home from traveling, and I go grand, and that's it. They'll be called lads a lot, even if they're girls. It's a very Irish thing. Even I trying to stop doing it, but I know a lot of lecturers will call the whole class just, lads, you ready, let's go, or let's start the lecture, or something like that. I can't think of any Irish phrases that we use. Not a lot of people actually kind of speak Irish on Maynooth. It's when we go to the west, they'll see more, or they might even hear more Irish out and about.
So needless to say, students do not need to be fluent in Gaelic before arriving. In fact, we expect them to not be. But I know we've spoken offline about this before. Outside of Gaelic, there are other linguistic opportunities for students in terms of academics. So can you tell us a little bit about what is offered, what classes students can take in terms of language?
As I said, we have the Irish. We have 4 other departments that offer languages for students. So we have the German, French, and Spanish, which would kind of be the core ones that would take a lot of Irish students would take because we studied them in high school. And then there's also Latin, which is beginners Latin, is through the Greek and Roman department. Go in and study them if you're kind of not even just interested in it. You don't even have to have any sort of background or interest. If you want to challenge and decide to learn a language in 12 weeks, go for it, have fun. We always say you can study whatever you want in Maynooth as long as your home university is okay. Do whatever you want. So
Excellent. I wouldn't have thought that you could take any of those languages, let alone Latin and things like that, at an Irish university. What do you cover during orientation in terms of the cultural and social opportunities? And then if you want to lead that into excursions and tell us a little about what they might experience on the program.
So with both programs, summer and semester, they get a Dublin orientation. So for the summer ones, we do it as a kind of, they get an orientation in Maynooth, and then they get my orientation. So I kind of talk them through programs and what they would do and all that sort of stuff. And then they go off into and explore a little bit. And then with the semester programs, they actually have a 2-night stay in Dublin. So it's kind of a way to get them over their jet lag a little bit, and then just to kind of orientate them around Dublin so they're not like lost sheep when I first let them off. So I guide them around so they know where they're going. We do a walking tour of Dublin, which I kind of do myself because I studied history. So I know all about Irish history, and I love explaining it to students and stuff like that, and showing them the kind of bits of history around Dublin that maybe not all the tourists would see, kind of the hidden gems around the city, which is always really nice. Both summer and semester students have to kind of end off their trip into Dublin with a trip to the Guinness storehouse. So they get to go and experience their first pint of Guinness. So they kind of see how it's all made, and then they get to actually try it for themselves, or they get to learn how to pour the perfect Irish pint of Guinness. So that's always kind of a highlight of orientation. And then we do kind of the exciting and more boring stuff of just kind of explaining how the semester will work, and just explaining what my role will be and how I'm there for them all the time, and just talking through kind of how trips and all that work, and how if they have any questions when they first arrive. That's kind of the orientation side of it. And throughout kind of the rest of the programs, there are certain standard kind of excursions that we do. For the semester ones, we have a 1-night stay. We go down to Cork City, which is down in the south of the country, and kind of explore all along there. We get to go to the 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦 Castle. Some Americans have heard of it before, that you get to kind of...
I think we're pretty familiar with that one, yeah.
And we'd go to Cove, which is out on the coast, which is kind of the last spot that the Titanic docked in before it went on its New York. So that's kind of that history of it too. And as well as that part of the trip, we get to go to visit one of the medieval cities, Kilkenny, which is kind of in the Midlands of the country. So we get to kind of explore there. So they get to see kind of two cities in one, which is really nice. So that's kind of our main excursion of this semester. There's a few other little ones. We to a local farm, which is really cool for students, that they get to go be a farmer for the day and explore how they get to see, like, there's sheep herding. Depending on the time of the year, there's always puppies, which is really exciting. Stuff like that. So they get to milk a cow and make soda bread again and stuff. And then the best kind of part of the day is bog jumping, which is what they get to explore.
Bog
which is
jumping.
Bog jumping. It's kind of harsh. It's really hard to describe to someone who's not used to it, but they literally just jump into a big huge pit of turf, which is kind of, it's what we use for fuel here with some people, but they just kind of, it goes kind of muddy and they just mess around in it and have loads of fun. It's loads of fun to watch and to see do it, but to explain it is really impossible sometimes.
So it's not a competitive, like, whoever can hop the most bogs. I'm saying this all wrong, but there's no like winner to this. It's just get muddy, enjoy yourself.
They all hold hands and they jump into, it's the weirdest thing to try and explain, but I think it's probably one of the activities that students love the most. It's not dangerous at all. It's fun. Like, you barely, it might go up to your like waist. It's just waist deep. So it's never let them go over their head or anything like that.
Other than bog jumping, what would you say in terms of the excursions, the trips themselves? Is there a favorite among students collectively, or one that you enjoy the most to expose students to?
My favorite is probably the optional one that we have, is the trip to Galway. So it's on the west coast, 2-night stay in Galway. So that's favorite just because I love Galway city itself. Galway is a kind of university city, so it's very young and vibrant, and students really like it. As part of that trip, they again get a walk and the historical side of it, as well as kind of the fun. Then there is a day trip that we go on to the Cliffs of Moher. So they are the I think cliffs in Europe, as far as I know. So they're stunning. It's a nice day out. It's nice and relaxed and just kind of get to explore the kind of beauty.
Is there a time of year or a season that's better to go to Cliffs of Moher, or is it just cold all around? One of the students said it's very cold but very fun.
It can be cold, yeah.
I just want to address some of the comments that Miss 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗓 gave us. She said the Belfast excursion was also so cool. Titanic Museum was one of the coolest museums I've ever been to. But go on, tell us a little bit about the seasons and how students best prepare.
Well, we do actually, we get 4 seasons in Ireland, so we can have the spring, summer, autumn, winter. At the moment we had snow 2 or 3 days ago, but it's never bad snow. We rarely ever have bad snow. It's more snow that kind of stays on the ground for half a day and then melts, so that's always nice. And then there's trees and all the flowers are starting to grow back. Summertime too, we never get too hot. I don't know the Fahrenheit in my head too much, but we always kind of stay in the 70s or so.
Okay.
So it rarely ever gets really warm. If it does, you always hear Irish people complaining because we don't like it, and our houses are not built for heat. So if it gets really warm, we don't like it. So it's perfect. Yeah. Yes. Autumn or fall is kind of, that's I think my favorite time of the year, because I love the changing of the colors, especially with Maynooth, which is the more of the south side. There are vines all over the building, so they turn red, so you get a lovely scenery as all the buildings are kind of just covered in this red all over the place. So
we can describe that as grand, but the good kind of grand. Volunteer opportunities. What do those look like for students? Are they more drawn out in a sense of if a student has an interest in some kind of volunteer opportunity, do you create that for them? Does the university create that for them? Or is it more organized and they can choose to be a part of something that already exists? Can you tell us a little bit about what that might look like for students?
So yeah, volunteering is something that can be done with students. Do it through kind of the societies that are set up by Maynooth. So there are a few examples that we have are like the Red Cross they can join and stuff like that. There's the St. Vincent de Paul, which would help to kind of look. And then we also have a university. So if we have any kind of media students or anybody just in general who's interested in how radio, they can join up and volunteer for that and spend semester doing that sort of thing. So whether it be behind the microphone or being in front of everyone and kind of slot where they talk about whatever they want. So there's loads of opportunities for volunteering through there, or they also have it, Maynooth has it, that you can join if you want just fun. So we have the societies that they also have too, kind of like we have a tea society where they kind of meet every week, try different types of tea. We have a Harry Potter one where they would watch all the Harry Potter films, a Disney one. They've one for cards too, so if you want to go play all the different type of card games and stuff like that. So there's kind of a wide variety for people to do if they don't want to kind of the sports ones, which are also available as well. Like trampolining is a weird kind of one, or unusual ultimate frisbee. There is a football one if people want to join, or you can be kind of brave and join up the Gaelic football one or the hurling Irish sports. So if you want to try it out, you could. So there's loads of kind of opportunities for any student, no matter what they want to do.
Here's a question. So Gaelic football, how does that compare with American football? Or are you referring to football in the sense of football as more American soccer?
Gaelic football is a completely different sport to anything. So it's not football, it's not American football, it's not soccer. It's a weird kind of sport to describe. It's kind of like soccer. You can pick up the ball and kind of run with it. The ball is the same shape and size as a soccer ball, but you can kind of pick it up, run with it, and then you can kind of not each other, but kind of get off each other, and you score it kind of in a goal or over the post of the goal. So
there are no further questions, Clíodhna. I'm going to do the lightning round, I guess we call it these days. So I'm just going to give you a word. If you can think of the first thing that comes into mind in relation to your program or things that you enjoy, just so we can get to know you better. Very casual. Choose whatever. So first one, my favorite, food.
Homemade.
And here's a question that we didn't really discuss. If you are a vegan or vegetarian, is that easy to accommodate in Maynooth, would you say?
Yeah, there's a lot more kind of awareness of it now here in Ireland. It's growing more and more. So most menus will have them listed kind of, it's a vegetarian, it's gluten-free, it's vegan, or it has a key on it that says, oh, this contains nuts, this has cereal or anything like that. So they're quite good at having those on all menus mostly. There is a vegan front, so there are options available for them. The veganism is kind of, it's growing more and more popular in Ireland. I know in Dublin there's a lot more restaurants and availability. So it wouldn't be a challenge for a student if they had a requirement that we would be able to find somewhere for them to eat.
Pretty good melting pot amongst different cultural dishes. Like, do you have a Chinese takeout place? Do you have a Thai food restaurant, Indian food, whatever those cultures are? Is it pretty melting pot there?
Yeah,
Maynooth?
the British at Maynooth University there's so many restaurants. We counted in work once, was it over about 25 different cafes all in just the Maynooth kind of town. So there's a low variety of how many you need. There may even be more now since we last it up.
Transportation.
It's kind of two words, but not complicated or easy.
How come? I like it.
It can be, if they're used to it. It's very, very simple. And Irish people are so friendly that you ask anybody on the street kind of going, I'm lost. How do I get to Maynooth? Or what's the best way stop to get me back to Maynooth? Everyone would be able to help you. It's not something to fear coming over here, so that's good.
Do you find that your students, when they arrive, they probably stand out quite a bit as Americans, as people who've never been to Ireland, what have you, expat? Do you find that they blend a little bit more as the semester goes on?
No, not at all. That's the brilliant about Maynooth, is there's so many other kind of Americans or study abroad or international students kind of always around the town. It is in the start, it's funny, you see them kind of wandering around the supermarket and they're like bewildered and they've no idea where they are or what they're, but by the end of it they're off navigating themselves like all over the country on public transport, or they're with Irish friends that they've made. So no, they very, very quickly kind of acclimatize and just slot in as if they were kind of almost Maynooth students, but the accent is probably the only thing that gives them away.
Locals.
Friendly. Definitely friendly.
We love that. Absolutely. Especially, I think, again, one of our alumni that studied in Limerick, he shared that like pub culture is just very different there. Like you could potentially sit down next to somebody you've never met before and you leave and you're now friends with this person, or people go to pubs to work or do homework or study. Like it's just very, very different there. But I've heard that's a good place to meet locals and meet friends of locals.
People will talk to you anywhere.
Language.
I'd say similar. Like we're very similar
Yeah.
languages between the US. We use the same words, so it's not like you're going to France or somewhere or where you're going to have to need another language. It's so simple here that we all speak English, so it's pretty easy enough. So the phrases are Irish, but it'd be easy enough. And then it's very funny, by the end of the semester they're all using the Irish phrases that I said at the start, and you're kind of going, I know you've made it as an Irish student, you survived, and you've like, that's what you go home with is your Irish phrases. So
landmarks, that can be natural, that can be historical, that can be whatever you feel.
Stunning, I think, would be one. So very pretty, kind of, especially like the nature side of Ireland and all that. It can be very, very pretty, especially and very different to some parts of the States. So some students who come from the East Coast are maybe used to a bit more built up areas and stuff, when they come to Ireland and all they see are fields and sheep, and that's kind of it for most of like the west coast of Ireland. So I think, yeah, stunning or beautiful would be one. So yeah, Maynooth is very kind of historical. There's Maynooth Castle, which is kind of right in the middle of this middle of the town, which was built by Normans in about, I think it's the 11th or 12th century. So that's always interesting for students to explore and see. There's also the old side of Maynooth that dates back to 1795. So it's an old side. There's the Maynooth Chapel, which I always try to bring students into if it's allowed. There's loads of history all around Maynooth that kind of you'd probably for granted for all so used to it, but to students I try and point it out as much as I can. So
and then last one I have, almost the last one, architecture.
Say historical.
Yeah.
Especially around Maynooth. There is a lot of history.
I could just like picture like the castles and just the old stone buildings and towers and things of that nature. So my favorite question to ask the RD is, students come on these programs and they're constantly learning from not just AIFS staff, but the faculty at the university and most importantly, our RDs. So what is something that you have learned of value from the students that come on these programs? What is your maybe major takeaway from the American students that are coming on these programs?
I think the biggest thing I take from working with AFS and all the students that I've met is that they've really made me a lot more confident. Normally myself, I'm kind of a very introverted person, but with the students, I'm live with them really, and I come out of my shell a lot more, and I like kind of being around them and kind of exploring and showing them off kind of my city. But it's definitely something that they've boosted, kind of being able to know that I can do these sort of things and take them on trips all over the place, over Ireland and stuff like that. So that's probably taken away from all the groups that I've had.
Excellent. We're so appreciative of our RD staff. The programs would not nearly be the same without your insight, support, but also just that ability and willing to kind of, they're learning from you, but you're also the student. You're learning from them. So it's kind of a cool full circle moment for everybody. Guys, if you have any questions about Maynooth, academics, housing, anything that we can get to Clíodhna, you can feel free to email us, send us a DM, you can phone us. We will get you in contact with her. Obviously, one of our very friendly RDs, happy to take all of your questions. Clíodhna, thank you so much for being with us today. Always a pleasure to see you. Take care.